Hey, yo, what's good, what's good, what's good? Welcome to Reflections of a DJ, the R.O.A.D podcast.
We're here in New York City, and we have invaded the Sound Collective. Rest in peace to DJ Never Forever. That's our brother.
I'm one of your hosts, DJ Crooked. We have our special co-host, Brooklyn's finest,
Yo.
DJ Goldfinger in the building.
Yo, what up?
What's good? And we have a very, very special guest. I mean, I'm so honored to have this guest here. He's a world-renowned DJ, producer, remixer, promoter, curator, influencer, tastemaker. Slash. He has authentically encapsulated the perfect brand of soul, hip-hop, R&B, and dance throughout his whole career. He's never steered off course. For over 20 years, he's curated parties like Soul Slam, Prince versus Michael Jackson theme party, his Stevie Wonder tribute party, which is like globally known, wonderful, which Stevie himself has even attended multiple times. He's an amazing producer, founding member of the Jig Masters. He's done remixes and reworks for De La Soul, Mary J. Blige, and countless others. We're very thankful and honored to have him here. One of Brooklyn's finest, the legendary DJ Spinna. We have.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow.
What's good, sir?
A little something.
How do you guys know each other?
Damn, bro.
It goes back.
We go back.
Really?
Yeah, man.
The thing about Spinna is I knew of him before I met him, just off a reputation.
Really?
Like with Riz. His name was just floating around. It was like, yo, this
the streets
nice.
was talking. The streets was talking.
That's crazy, man, because I feel like we connected at Beach Street.
Definitely.
Early.
Definitely.
Before, well, I guess maybe my rep did get around a little something, but I don't really think at that time no one really knew who I was. In the early 90s in New York City?
Nah. From my hood, I knew who you was. Just on the strength of the block parties or just hearing your name ring out, it was like, you got to hear this guy.
So this is like pre-production days. This is like
this is like DJ shit.
Party rocking shit, or just skills.
This might just be skills and maybe mixtapes. I'm not sure if you did mixtapes.
I did, yep. I did.
But his name got around, and I was like, okay, I heard about.
So you heard about him before you were working at Beach Street Goldie?
While I was working at Beach Street.
You were working at Beach Street. Yeah. What were you hearing?
I was hearing, this nigga's nice. I heard it. He's nice. Like, okay, just so I know.
Yeah, and plus we got a lot of mutual friends.
Totally.
Old school, Brooklyn.
Wait, so what parts of Brooklyn y'all from? Yeah.
I'm Crown Heights.
I'm downtown Brooklyn, Wyckoff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm right downtown where the storage usually is at. You know what I mean? And I heard about him. And Crown Heights is a nice little space away from where I live.
Yeah.
So his name rang out. Yeah.
Yeah, Crown Heights is one of the only neighborhoods. It's one of the few neighborhoods in Brooklyn that's kind of stayed almost the same after all these years. I feel like.
Well, not now.
Not now?
Nah, man. It's gentrified, man.
Is it more now?
Hell yeah.
But it's not like Park Slope or Williamsburg.
It's getting there.
Is it?
It's getting there. Yo, once Starbucks hit Franklin Avenue, it's like, yo, what is going on?
Yeah,
right
for real.
It's happening.
So wait, when did y'all first meet? Do you remember?
So this got to be in maybe late 80s, maybe late 80s?
Late 80s. I'm on the cusp of 90, 91, you know what I'm saying? Like,
because I know he used to go to the clubs, and I definitely went to the clubs, so it had to have been before then we interacted.
Yeah, it has to be, man.
Because he was doing like Wild Pitch and all that other stuff. Yeah. So we was all going out to all these different joints.
So at this time where people just asking for you Goldie at Peach Street, like everyone's like, yo, just go to ask Goldfinger, ask Goldie.
Nah, I just think that people that, that bought records just came there. It was a destination spot. Okay. And it would just, kind of fellowship through that.
Because, Spinna, you've been early on. Like, I think I saw in the interview that you were at, like, Paradise Garage at 17 years old?
16.
16?
Yeah. Definitely wasn't supposed to be in there.
Yeah. But you was outside. You was in the streets.
I was outside. You know what I'm saying? I know Goldie was, the same way. I got in through an older member that actually was part of the first DJ crew I ever knew on my block.
Really?
They were called Laser Rock Disco. They were like the local DJ crew that hooked up the sound system. Their speakers were incredible. They were made out of pyramid. They were built out of pyramid shapes. So that alone was like gravitated me towards that energy. Late 70s. One of my biggest memories was like when in 79 when Good Times was the hottest joint in the streets, in the skating rinks. Them cutting that up, Ain't No Stopping Us Now was the joint, shots ringing out at the end of the night, everybody scatters, you know what I'm saying? But
Definitely.
But you know, so one of those guys, Charles Moore, shout out to Charles Moore, one of my OGs. He was one of the DJs, and he got me and Krim from Jig Masters and a couple of other of our brothers into the club. I was always the youngest in the crew, though. You know what I'm saying? So I got to go there, and it changed my life. Larry Levan is the king. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And for me, it was a moment, man, because obviously a lot of the records that he championed, couldn't hear them in their heyday when it was brand new, like the 82, 83 post-disco boogie records. My experience with being exposed to that was really through WBLS and Frankie Crocker. Mm-hmm. So he was an avid, frequent attendee of the garage, you know, and played a lot of the records that were... Studio
54, everywhere that was really on the cusp of pushing everything, Crocker was there, and he would play shit on the radio.
Yep, so that's how a lot of us youngins at the time learned about what was hot, besides whatever we may have heard on the block or in the streets at block parties and stuff, which was like a big deal back in the day.
He was like the Flex of other music.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Is that what gravitated you to DJing, or was it kind of what you saw outside?
I would say it's a combination of both. I mean, so first of all, I started playing records when I was 2-3 years old. When I could walk and talk. Yeah, I do. I do have pictures.
See, I don't have any pictures. I have pictures of me DJing when I was young, but nothing like holding the records. Like,
I got a picture of me sitting on my Panamanian parents' couch, plastic covered, and I'm holding 45s.
Wow,
incredible.
I got another picture where I'm about maybe 4 years old, standing next to my mom. And on the lamp, there was like a table similar to this, but made out of glass, and there's a stack of 45s, and I'm holding one of them in my hand.
Wow.
I got another picture, rest in peace, Tito Jackson, just
right.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But my favorite Jackson 5 album of all time is the Get It Together album, which had Dancing Machine on it, and Get It Together on it.
You mentioned that was your favorite Jackson, right? Tito Jackson. You thought he was the coolest.
I mean, I won't say he's my favorite, but I always thought he was the coolest at the time. Outside of Michael, obviously. You know what I'm saying?
In the cartoon, he was like real cool.
Yeah, he had the thickest eyebrows. He just stood out of the brothers to me. But I'm holding this album in front of my grandmother's house, who lived on Carroll Street. I'm like 5 years old. Got the afro and everything. Got the record in my hand.
Wow.
So I've always been, music is ingrained in my DNA. I played records that were in my house. My dad had a cool little collection, but my uncle, his younger brother, had an even bigger collection.
What's good, everyone? This is P-Dot from Reflections of a DJ, the R.O.A.D podcast. Whether you're just discovering the podcast or a day one listener, if you've been loving the content and want more, here's your chance to support the pod, get closer to the action, and unlock exclusive content by joining our Patreon. For just $5 a month, you can join our Tier 1 R.O.A.D subscription. This is for our loyal listeners who want early access to new episodes 3 to 4 weeks ahead, your name in the credits of every video episode, and access to our exclusive R.O.A.D edits pack. For the hardcore supporters, we've got our Tier 2 R.O.A.D for Life subscription for just $10 a month. This is the all-in package. You'll get everything from Tier 1, plus a monthly bonus episode, early access to our exclusive R.O.A.D 10 and R.O.A.D Talk interviews, behind-the-scenes content, our In the Crate series, along with unreleased projects. This is your chance to support the podcast and get more of the content that you love. Join the family today at patreon.com/R.O.A.D podcast. Check the link in our descriptions. We appreciate you, and let's keep this journey going.
Wait, so growing up with a Panamanian household, what were you listening to? What were they listening to?
I mean, black Panamanians for the most part are Caribbean descent.
Right.
So I heard everything from Willie Colon and El Gran Combo to Junior Mervin, Police and Thieves in the House, to Bob, of course, Bob Marley, to all the ill soul records that were out at the time. My dad had Etta James in the crib, Sam Cooke in the crib, Aretha Franklin in the crib, a lot of 45s, a lot of James Brown.
It's like, what an education.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. And then I consider myself a disco baby because I'm a 70s baby, and playing all these records in the house was also like the beginning of the disco era. It wasn't called disco in 74, 75, 76, but all of those records entered my world also. And then my dad he saw how important this music was to me, and he used to take me on record, going to the stores.
Wow. Wait, how old were you when you was?
I was like 6, 7. I remember. I have a vivid memory of going downtown Brooklyn. I think the store might have been Bondi's, and buying
J Street.
Yeah, but I was 6. Yeah, so
J Street. I remember that, but it wasn't there that long though. Bonzi wasn't.
Nah, it wasn't. But I remember picking up. There's a record called "Dreaming the Dream" by Crown Heights at Fair, which is my hood, right?
Yeah.
And buying that 12, like looking at it on the wall, because I already knew labels. I was able to identify record labels crazy. And all of that stuff. So, and then even taking it a step further and kind of studying early on, like the differences between 7-inch versions and disco 12-inch versions, because that was the beginning of the 12-inch too. 76 was like the first time we started seeing extended records,
right.
And I got some of those. But I already had some of the 45s, you know what I mean? So then I was like, wow, this is longer, this has breaks. So, the early stages, and then of course radio, during the 70s was kind of like the beginning of the mix show format. Because disco was so big, it became mainstream, so obviously radio stations had to gravitate towards that as well, and it became one of the biggest
things of the industry.
Yeah, for sure. It influenced the kinds of records that were being made, the disco 12-inch edits, all of that stuff was obviously what was happening in the clubs at that time too, which I was, a kid, couldn't go, but radio was that was that shit.
So like Frankie Crocker at that time would play like Hall & Oates, he'll play Box Skaggs, but he also played all the hot records of that time. That was just like, it was a mixture. It was very, if it was hot, it was hot. You wouldn't know that Lisa Stansfield was white by hearing it. But you would know that it was going to get played by.
What year was that?
No, this is all through the 70s. All through the 70s
and 80s.
Also the 70s and 80s, yeah.
Yep. I remember the first, one of my favorite records of all time for the club is Voices Inside My Head by the Police.
Yeah.
And I remember the first day I heard that, Frankie announced it, he was like, "This is the Police, Voices Inside My Head." So there was a record store on Lincoln Place in Franklin called Caribbean Records, but they sold everything. They even had like the low key bongs and weed on the paraphernalia. There was that era. But I went to the store and they had the album, which is funny to me that a store like that would even carry a Police record. But
because it had like the reggae tinge to it too.
It did, but just to show you how much of a melting pot New York was.
Yeah.
But I remember going and seeing the record on the wall and seeing these 3 white dudes on the cover, like, yo, this is a white band? Like, that might have been I think that was the first white record I ever bought that made some incredible black music.
and Frankie would play like imports. Like I remember when he played Soul II Soul for the first time.
Wow.
And he just like he really just broke a lot of records, and because he was so respected and he was kind of in the streets, you know what I mean? So it was like when he played it, he just put the stamp on it. It was like, that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like, did your parents notice like, oh wait, like they must have been supportive when you were like kind of leaning towards becoming a DJ or interested in it, or were they like, were they like Caribbean parents? They're like, you got to get a job, you got to do all this. You know what I'm saying?
Me playing records in the house was definitely an indication out the gate.
Yeah.
But at that time, DJing wasn't a thing to become yet. You know what I mean? I was, also selecting the records at family gatherings. Anytime there was any kind of party, house party or basement party that my family went to, and there was a DJ present, I was right next to the, I was really, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to DJ. You know what I'm saying? Like when I realized that DJing was a thing, I was like, I'm going to DJ. But as far as my parents, I think, my mom, she's always been supportive, right? But as Caribbean parents, they want you to get a job. They want you to, be able to sustain yourself, and they definitely did not see DJing as some kind of way to, a means to like sustain yourself. My dad, rest in peace, absolutely. Although he supported me in the beginning, when I became an adult, after college life and everything, and I never had a job like working for anyone else. I always stayed consistent with the music journey. And he was a hard worker. He was like a fixing cars, body mechanic, all his life since he was like 14, doing that. So he didn't understand it. He was like, "You just gonna play records,
Right. You're having a party. Right.
You're gonna play records for the rest of your life." And then, in the last maybe 5-6 years of his life, he had a better understanding.
Wow.
Because he came to some of my events. He came to a wonderful party, Stevie Wonder.
Man.
And that was, I think that he was quiet. He wasn't very vocal. He wasn't one of those men that really expressed verbally emotion. You know what I'm saying? He's an old school machismo dude.
Right.
But I saw it on his face. I was like, he gets it now. He gets it.
Such a defining moment, right?
Yeah.
When your parents kind of see that for the first time.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So wait, when did you become the hip hop head? When did it hit you? What was the first song that you heard?
I mean, Rapper's Delight was big, man. I remember the first time I heard it, I was riding in the car with the family, and I was a little confused because Good Times was so big, and then I hear this version with some guys rapping on it, and I was blown away. Like, I was just like, what's going on here? And then we had like other more underground records. I remember Spoonin' Rap by Spoonie G was hot in the streets around that time, 79. Rapping and Rocking the House by Funky 4, Plus One More with Shy Rock. That was big. Super Rhymes was huge, which was a play on Bounce Rock Skate Roll, which was another joint that was hot around the same time as Good Times. Jimmy Spice, and then of course Curtis Blow, which had a little bit more commercial, but actually Christmas Rapping, that was another block party record. That break, I was hearing that cut up all the time during that period. So my introduction to rap and hip hop was pretty early on, and then of course like any kind of breakbeat getting cut up in the late 70s, early 80s, that was big for me, man. That was big. And as a matter of fact, the Laser Rock Disco crew in the early 80s, I remember they were the first ones I heard play the Mohawks Champ.
Okay.
And the Big Beat. They were cutting breaks as well. It was just part of the environment for me, whatever I saw on the streets, and it was just part of being in Brooklyn.
You always wanted to like be a party rocking DJ? Like, did you always want to do that? Because usually when I meet DJs and who do production, there's two different sides. Some of them are like, I want it to be like Premiere, and you know what I'm saying, I want to learn to scratch and to start producing. And then some of them were like party rockers, and then it's very rare for me to see a party rocker become an actual successful producer.
Well, here's the thing with DJing. I'm a DJ first. I'm a music lover first, and my introduction to DJ culture, full circle, was going to the clubs and hearing Larry at the Garage, hearing David Morales at the Red Zone,
right?
Even Mars, back in the days, Clark Kent,
Sound Factory,
you know what I'm saying, Sound Factory,
right.
Wild Pitch parties.
Yep, all those early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. There was even a spot called Snob Busters on Broadway that I went to a few times. That was like 89, 90. So my introduction to what it means to be a DJ and smash the club, that was my lens. So to me, that's party rocking.
Right.
It may not have been a hip hop set, though we heard hip hop back then. Larry played rap. David Morales played rap. This is when up-tempo hip hop.
Junior Vasquez too.
This is when hip hop was up-tempo. You know what I'm saying? We had like Kane making fast records.
Lazy K and all that.
Yeah.
Not Lazy K, Doug Lazy.
Doug Lazy, yep. Let It Roll, Get Bold, all those records.
Yeah.
And, and shout out to Clark Kent once again, the Chubster. He did a house remix.
He certainly did.
You know what I'm saying? So there was a period where hip hop was fused in with dance music. A lot of hip hop was fast, up tempo, and you heard it within the house set. But to me, it's never been a separation. It's all about good music across the board, because that's how I was raised. I was
Taste
raised,
level.
Yeah, I was raised on good music, and whatever moves the crowd is what moves the crowd.
Right.
It's only until like the 90s, man, when things got really separated and the brand of party rocking became more, I would say, more hip hop oriented. And especially in New York, the New York club scene, house and dance music was really big up until the early 90s.
Yeah.
Really?
Hell yeah, it was big.
Well, it was more so because the hip hop clubs are so violent, and at some point there was house clubs, and then there'll be like a house night, like a Saturday or something,
yeah.
and then Friday would be like the hip hop night, or a Thursday, or maybe like a weekday.
Like Shelter.
Yeah.
Shelter was like that. Club Shelter.
But it would be too violent on those hip hop nights, so then it would be like, okay, well, we really can't do this here. Maybe we just have to back off from it. So it was a drought at one point with hip hop clubs in New York.
What years were that?
This is like late 80s, early 90s.
Interesting.
And then it would just sprinkle. You would have sprinkle clubs that would just come up and pop up, be popping for about 4 months.
Yeah.
Then a new party would start.
Yeah.
Then a new party would start. Then a new party would start.
I never hear anyone really talk about the Shelter period.
Oh man, let me
The
tell you.
Shelter was
the
incredible.
Shelter,
me
it's
tell you
like I
something.
grew up in New York, and when I think of house, like really vocal house, we call it Shelter House.
Right.
Right. When I was growing up, like late.
That's where I heard Levan. I didn't catch him at the garage. I was a little younger.
But no one really talks about the Shelter even, and I kind of
Well, listen.
yeah.
The Shelter, I consider that my home. Like, as far as the house world. Shout out to Timmy Regisford. Shout out to Merlin Bob. Those are my OG brothers. A lot of what I learned about controlling the crowd,
Kenny Carpenter.
but a lot of what I learned about energy in the room, reading the audience, programming especially, having an arsenal of music, and knowing how to put these records together and controlling the mood. Timmy Regisford, for probably about from like 91 till about 96, 97, until Club Vinyl on Hudson Street closed, Hubert Street closed. He was rocking every weekend from Saturday night from like 10, 11 to like
Sunday
afternoon.
Yeah.
2
Marathon
o'clock.
shit.
1,
bro.
2 nonstop, and absolutely crushing the party, crushing it. And the way he was able to do that is by having different. He was telling a story, and having different sets throughout the night.
Right.
With different kinds of energy. So the beginning,
like creating an arc.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Just energy up, and then by like 7, 8 in the morning, you might hear a gospel record. You might hear a Coltrane record. You might hear a Slave record. You might hear the tempo drops, and he just goes soulful. So for the first maybe 7, 8 hours, it's just energy, and then the way he's interweaving the records, 3 turntables. This is before digital, before CDJs, just records. 3 turntables. Sometimes you'll have 3 records going at the same time, and it's like.
And then you have lights. And then you have like the designs on the wall, like where they have like some jelly looking thing where you're just kind of tripping out, and he plays right along with it and then takes you there. And you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it was Shelter and the system.
System's crazy, rooftop. But here's the other thing about Timmy and Merlin that I think needs to be mentioned is that while they were curating the Shelter, they were also
record label guys
and radio station guys. So a lot of my technique, my DJ technique, learning how to mix and blend, and having one record rocking and maybe throw another record another acapella under an instrumental or whatever. These guys were doing this on radio, and I got to mention Tony Humphries too, because Tony Humphries is the predecessor to them. But Tony was first, then Merlin, then Timmy. They were ruling New York urban stations between Kiss FM and WBLS. They were all on the radio at the same time.
That's a fact.
Absolutely crushing it. So me coming up and just hungry and thirsty for the craft, and wanting to learn how to manipulate records. When I started DJing, like learning how to DJ, was like 82, 83. And a lot of what I learned was by listening to those guys.
Yeah. So, wait, when is the Shelter period? What years was it?
Shelter was all the way through that. Like, because Shelter was like maybe 84, 85.
No, it's not that early.
No,
Timmy was around DJing, but the club didn't open until, their night didn't start until like 90, maybe 91, around that time.
Would you say like the Shelter is kind of like continuing what Paradise Garage?
That's exactly what they were doing, because the garage had closed and a lot of the members needed a new home. So that, and Timmy, you know, in Maryland, they used to go to they were members. They were always there. So, but again, like what empowered them so much was having all this music industry. Like Timmy's responsible for signing some of the greatest artists in R&B, man, like Guy, Loose Ends. He was at Motown. Maryland, forget about it. He was like
Atlantic. He was at Atlantic.
Oh, yeah. So between Motown, MCA, and Atlantic, they were just crushing signings, like artists. Maryland Bob signed 10 City. And they went gold in South Africa first before they went gold. And this was like one of the first commercial outputs coming out of Chicago.
Right.
That had a major label record deal, and those records were hot in the club. So imagine having the power to break these records on radio, do mixes on the record that you can then play at the club. Radio.
So this would have been like your ultimate dream, to be not only a club DJ but a radio at the same time, right?
Yeah. I mean, back then I don't think I realized the impact and how they all of those three entities, label, club, DJ, intertwined and, you know, helped to build this monumental movement. I don't think I really peeped it.
I don't think anyone did it. I think they were just doing it in real time, right? It was just happening.
It was just happening.
But when we look at that, we're like, wow, all these pieces came together,
right,
and really affected everyone.
Right. So, but to go back to the question you asked earlier about my hip hop, I can't neglect that side either, because, you know, the first time I heard Grandmaster Flash on the Wheels of Steel, which was the first DJ routine record ever on Sugar Hill Records, where he's cutting up like Blondie and Another One Bites the Dust and Good Times and Freedom. Like, that blew my mind. I think it blew every DJ's mind at the time. You know what I mean? So that played another role. And then another sidebar. So I mentioned earlier that I love break beats. I still buy breaks, both for cutting up and for making beats with, you know, chopping kick snares and hi-hats and all that stuff. That still motivates me. Drums are always the foundation. But another team on radio that doesn't get enough props is the world famous Supreme Team.
Yeah.
Before Buffalo Gals and World Famous and all the records that, you know, Hey DJ.
Yeah.
They were on radio on like the WHBI, and they came on, I can't remember exactly what night, but they came on at a weird time. It was like on a Tuesday at like 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning during school hours. I'm in like middle school, staying up late with the Walkman or a little box under the pillow when I'm supposed to be sleeping, getting ready to press record. Those guys, they cut anything with a break. I remember the first time I heard Sexual Healing by Marvin Gaye was on their show, and they're cutting up the drum intro. But that was they were the first ones I heard play Impeach the President on radio.
Wow. And they were just bringing the drums back.
Yeah, they were cutting up. So back then we had these, before Ultimate Breaks and Beats got really big and became the staple for DJs and producers.
Was it Breakbeats Volume 1 and all that?
Yeah, so there were Octopus breaks first.
Okay.
And
Super Disco.
And Super Disco with Paul Winley and up in Harlem. But before those, a lot of these records were pressed on 12-inch bootlegs.
Right.
That you would get at what's the store?
Downstairs Music Factory.
Downstairs Music Factory, and there's another Music Factory, right, in the city. So Funky President, Impeach, Big Beat. They were all pressed separately.
I just want to do my thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Melting Pot.
Dance to the drummer's beat.
That's the drummer's beat.
Yeah, because I think Ralph McDaniels, we were just talking to him the other day. He said that like all those original records would just sell out.
Yeah,
And
they
then-
were hard to get.
And then someone was like, someone needs to press these all up because we don't know, no one's pressing them anymore. We just need more.
Yeah.
He told about Lenny. He was like,
Lenny, yep. Shout out Breakbeat Lou, did some of the edits, a lot of the edits, him and Louis Flores.
So Goldie, you wasn't the only one.
Hey, allegedly.
Yeah, so basically, you know, that became a thing for me. But shout out to World Famous Supreme Team. A lot of my breakbeat knowledge in the beginning came from listening to their show.
Hey, yo, what's good? This is the R.O.A.D podcast, Reflections of a DJ. We're here in New York City, and we have invaded the Sound Collective. Now, I want to explain what the Sound Collective is. I got my man Lefty from the Sound Collective here. Lefty, thank you for having us and hosting this beautiful studio for us. Exactly what is the Sound Collective here in New York?
Modern, state-of-the-art facility with tons of production gear. And one side of it is you can be a member and you can come here and pay monthly to use the rooms and the gear and sign out time and our space. We have a state-of-the-art studio. We have all these production stations, DJ stations, instrument practicing rooms and such like that.
And you also like teach. You have like classes and sessions, right?
We have intensive programs, short-term programs, so people can come and take Saturday classes on DJing, production.
There's like kind of a community building within where there's like DJs, producers, musicians.
Up and coming producers, people honing their craft and learning, and DJs and all these things. And they come here and practice, and we have all the new gear, so they come and check that out and get familiar. And a lot of DJs will come in from out of town, be like, let me get a day pass so I can just get a refresh on the 3000s and the V10.
And what's great is that a lot of our guests, everyone from like Clark Kent to the technician to like Camilo, they come in here and they're just like, holy shit.
You want to play with all the gear, man? Yeah.
I didn't even realize this, but you guys have like studio spaces where people can do live streams and they can do their Twitch streams.
Yep. We got a whole green screen set up already, multicam, full on switcher. Like, we also do a lot of events here. We're bringing a lot of outside talent, organizations. We got a big event coming up with DJ City, Beat Source, and Serato.
That's part of our family.
Yeah. We did a big one last year with them. We got another one coming up.
For our listeners, is there any way we could hook them up with a deal, or, you know, like if they put in a R.O.A.D podcast code?
Yeah, tell me about it. What else do you have envisioned for this deal? It sounds like we're well on our way. Why don't you tell them?
You're working with us where they can type in a code for like R.O.A.D.
Yep.
And they'll get a month free, right?
Yeah, on our online platform. We have a whole online platform with like masterclass style education.
Nice.
Different categories and everything, instruments, drums. And then we have these things that we're launching right now called Pro Paths. So you can choose, like if you're a producer, you can take the Ableton Pro Path, the Logic Pro Path, Serato Studio. Goes through a wide variety of knowledge besides just stuff in that skill set and discipline.
So our R.O.A.D listeners, if you're in New York, you can check out their facility. You can do a day pass, a week pass, a monthly pass. You can check out their site. You have access to all the education online.
Soundcollective.com. We also have a YouTube channel that has some of our content from the educational courses, and all of our events are live streamed and put up there.
I hope we can come back here and use your facilities again.
Looking forward to it.
Shout to Lefty and the Sound Collective. Thank you so much.
Isn't it? I think one of the most beautiful things about hip hop is it's genreless. It's limitless. Like, it's not one thing. It's not like, oh, you only sample, soul and R&B. No,
Right.
you can sample whatever you want. There are no fucking rules.
Nope.
It just has to sound good.
Yeah.
Yep. Has to
That's
feel
it.
right. Has to
It
feel
can be any BPM. You could do whatever you want with hip hop.
Yep.
It's like there is no race behind it. There's nobody. If it sounds good, and if there's a great part, that's the whole idea
That's
of
the
sampling.
idea, is bringing it out.
I don't care if it's 1 second, 3 seconds, or a millisecond.
Well,
it sounds good.
at the end of the day, man, a lot of the records that are championed in the genre came from all styles, man. Came from all these different genres. Everything, rock, Latin,
right,
whatever.
That's why, like, when they talk about like the mashup era or like the open format, like they're calling club music, I always try to remind motherfuckers, like, that's not like open. There was no open format in the 70s and 80s. It was just hip hop.
Right.
That was the style.
Or good music.
So yeah, at a good hip hop party, you could play anything. It just needed to sound good.
Basically.
Well, this brings me back to the Paradise Garage conversation too, because Larry had no boundaries. A lot of people associate him with just house and disco, but if you look at his playlist, he was playing everything.
And remixing shit too.
Like country, new wave,
Yeah.
proto techno, and techno, early techno, and disco, and soul, and funk, and jazz. Like, he was all over the place, literally all over the place. And again, a lot of things got compartmentalized because of the music industry and record labels trying to find a better way to streamline and market and push the
Needed
records.
to box it in and label it.
Yeah, you worked at a record store, so you know firsthand when that started happening.
So when I look at your history with Jig Masters and Criminal, MC Criminal, and all the production, the De La Soul Stakes is High remix, which is amazing,
Thank
right?
you.
It seems like you were like one of the original backpack heads. You was like a real backpack head. But then in the 2000s, your production shifted a bit and you started like channeling this dance music production. And I'm wondering early on if you wanted to produce dance, if you wanted to produce that kind of music, or were you just stuck in this hip hop, fascination, or what was it?
Well, funny enough, as a kid, I always wanted to be in a band. I always wanted to be a part of a group. I actually wanted to play drums. I never pursued it, but the Jackson 5 were very influential to me in that way. So when production started getting more advanced with sampling, that played a major role. And the first time I ever went into a recording studio was in 1985, and I recorded a demo with, I had different iterations of hip hop groups that I was a part of, like 3 before Jig Masters. So I recorded a demo. I'm actually rapping on the demo.
Where'd you record it?
There was a studio called Black Seed Recording Studios in Coney Island.
Oh, wow.
One of my friends that I was really close with growing up, he and I were kind of like partners in the music and making beats, and he rapped. I rapped a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I hated my voice.
What was your rap name?
Well, I didn't have my name was never separated from my DJ name. I'll say this because it's out there already in past interviews, but Dynamite. DJ Dynamite.
Jesus
name.
Christ.
And my homies from the block in 1990 was like, man, you spin the records, that's your name.
Wow.
Forget about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a rap.
That is hilarious.
It's a rap, but I hated my rap voice, so I was even rapping.
You actually sound like you got a good rap voice.
I think if I really wanted to pursue it,
yeah,
I would have to get used to my voice. But
it depends how you would. What was your style back then in 85?
It was like Run DMC style, man. That was the style. It was like whatever was hot in 85.
Right.
That was the way to rap. But I evolved, and we, all of the groups that I was a part of evolved. Jig Masters at one point was 4 of us. It was my man Boss from my block, Crim, and Crim's uncle Ammo, which ironically, we were in Unsigned Hype with Biggie on the cover.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So I guess maybe what I should do is just give you a little timeline, sort of. So years of from 85 all the way up to 94. Making demos after demos after demos, recording, going into studios.
It's like you almost had a deal, you didn't have a deal, and then you went independent.
Right. So the closest to getting a deal was actually with Merlin Bob, believe it or not. He was at East West at the time, and we had a demo deal, which is when the labels give you money to record some songs. And they then see what's popping, what's hot, to then move forward, maybe turn into a single situation and then eventually an album situation. So at that time, actually, Juggernauts also had a demo deal around the same time. You were
like in the really, New York hip hop's always been underground, but you were really kind of in the beginning stages of the real underground scene that was like emerging in the early 90s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Company Flow, Arsonist,
yes,
Shabam Sadiq.
Yes. But before that, he had break beats and he had party records too.
So do you know about the? Okay, I'm digressing a little bit. I'm digressing.
That's a lot.
Stay focused. Where was I? Let me talk. Okay, yeah. So almost getting signed. So Merlin Bob, we sit with him. He loves the project, the demos that we had done prior to getting the money. He gave us some money. Went in the studio, recorded 4 more songs. We were almost ready to go with a single. We met with product management at the label, getting ready to make it go, and then 95 East West and Electra merged into EERG Group, and half the people get fired. Our product person gets fired, and it's a wrap. So at that point, which was a blessing in disguise, and also the period where underground indie rap was really birthing and starting to blow, we decided to start Beyond Real. And it came down to me and Krim. The other members left, and the rest is history.
Right.
And it was a great moment because it definitely set the tone for me as an independent. You know what I mean? Like, I always wanted to have a deal with a major, get the budgets, get the videos, all of that stuff. But at that time, I feel like there was kind of an anti-major situation.
It definitely was
happening.
Definitely was.
You call it backpack, call it whatever you want. But man, from like 95 to the late 90s, the underground rap scene in New York was hella strong, man. It was.
Yeah, I mean,
it was strong.
I mean, you started hearing stories of like all the rappers we looked up to, like being broke from the 80s. And then these labels taking advantage, record company people are shady, and then being independent just sounded like the new wave. And it's like something that all the rappers and hip hop motherfuckers, that they just needed to start being independent. And it was the right time when you started doing that, because it really kind of set the tone for how you would approach your career. Like, because I feel like you've always just followed your heart.
Yeah.
Been like completely authentic.
That's the way
to
to
yourself,
do it.
right?
Man, look,
but not everyone has been able to do what I feel like what you've done,
I guess I've always remained confident in myself and my sound, and knowing that I have something to offer.
Right.
And it definitely helped when we started putting records out, and it started getting the reception that it did, and the numbers. I mean, back then we could sell like 10,000 records over 12.
And this is around the time when the mixtapes was out, so you started getting like, even if you didn't know where you gauged it at, you can tell from the DJs playing it, from the club scene, from the record stores. It was a lot of different ways that you can tell how hot you were at that point.
Selling 10,000, right? At like as an independent is like going gold with a label.
Yeah,
right?
I'm pretty certain that if you were signed to a major at that time, you weren't seeing that kind of return immediately, especially if you got a crazy advance.
Right.
So that just gave us more incentive to keep going. And then a whole community was built around that. A lot of MCs rocking with each other. Yo, my studio, my home studio was like a party. Like, so many rappers came through my spot back in the days of noteworthy, from Eminem to Pharaoh, to Mos Yassine.
You've got early production with Eminem, like
yes,
with Scam.
With Scam, shout out to Scam, Shadow Man, Old World Disorder. They were on my Beyond Real label, and then Scam was real tight with M. They were running around to like Lyricist Lounge, and they were real close at that time. And at this period,
was this like before I Just Don't Give a Fuck?
This is Eminem? When he had the Shady EP out.
Okay, yeah.
Before Interscope, he was still negotiating his contract at the time.
So this is like before the Royce da 5'9", Bad Meets Evil, all that shit.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
How did you link up with Eminem?
Through Scam. And then so the record that came out, a lot of people don't know this. There was a record that was released on Raucous called Heavy Beats Volume 1, right? That record was originally supposed to be on a label called Correct Records.
That's the one with Black Alicious and all that.
Black Alicious and Al Tariq.
Right.
The label folded, and me and my management just basically sent that project over to Raucous, and then they ended up, recommending M, because I didn't really know M yet. That was before, if I'm not mistaken, that was before we did the Old World Disorder record, or maybe like around the same time, but I didn't really know M yet. And then Thurston Howell got on that joint.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, Talib's, one of Talib's first ever appearances is on that record. Apani. Shout out to my brother Jock Max, Basement Chemist. He did the intro, had him do intros for me a few times. But I'm saying all this to say that it was a community built. You know, J Live, you know, making records, Pumpkinhead, what aka Gene Gray was like their studio and operations was like blocks away from me.
It was definitely a breeding ground at that time.
Yeah, man, it was a community. It was a whole movement.
But it was so like obviously the impact was big, but it was like a small world kind of, because you kind of all worked together, right?
Yeah. There was no way we could be in that scene and not run it. Especially there were showcases back then. You know what I mean? And also radio. This was right before. I don't want to call it what I want to call it, but certain DJs were still supporting indie rap before they had to play a playlist. More commercial records. Beyond Real, the first Jig Masters single when it came out, Flex dropped bombs on that joint for like 2 weeks.
That was worth it. You know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not complaining.
The thing is, when Spinna was doing that stuff, as a DJs, we looked at Spinna like he was a star. Like
really?
We looked at, hell yeah. It was like, Spinna's kind of like you know, he's doing his thing, like he's doing this, but he's doing that.
Right.
Like we always looked at Spinna like he does some other shit. So then when he started doing the underground stuff, and it wasn't like he was starting, because you had already had your credits with the De La Soul shit.
Right, but we're forgetting one record.
Okay.
Important record. So I went to SUNY Binghamton. I DJ'd my way through college, right? Played almost every weekend.
Where were you playing? Just like a local?
Nah, man. Binghamton was pretty big. It was
Okay.
upstate New York, and they had
Shout out to my man DJ Arch.
Yes. So Rude Rhythms was my DJ crew.
Rude Rhythms.
Rude Rhythms. DJ Arch, shout out to Daddy Culture and Kanza. And once I graduated and came home, straight in the studio, and I recorded this record that goes bounce, bounce,
Everybody bounce.
Right? Yeah.
Rude Rhythms Experiment.
Legendary.
Rude Rhythms Experiment.
We sold tons of that.
I co-produced that with Daddy Culture, who was the reggae DJ in the DJ crew in school.
Oh,
and we
shit.
did all the parties together.
That's like early party breaks.
See, this is
That's
why
one of the first ones.
This is why we looked at him like, yo, this guy's a star. Like,
Right.
because we knew it was like,
That's that
okay.
that's that Panamanian work ethic. His pops didn't know he was constantly working.
Oh shit!
That was like one of the first OG.
It's one of the first ones.
Yeah.
This is right before Crooklyn Clan, rest in peace,
Yep.
Fat Man Scoop. And
Those were when I would go to Rock and Soul or any record store. I'm like, what do you need? Like, that's the first party breaks they would give you with
Yeah.
Spread Love and all this shit. Yeah.
so there's another tangent. So that was one of the first one that I consider the first one, and I think most people consider the first one, is Kenny Dope Super. AZ Super,
Yeah.
that
Right.
joint.
Well, really, you really can't count that as first, because you know why? Because Todd Terry was doing stuff too.
Well, it's all relative. So here's what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
I connected with Kenny because that Bounce record came out on Freeze Records. Kenny and Todd grew up together. And I met Kenny Dope from Masters at Work from that record. And then he's one of the guys that inspired me to pursue house music.
Wow.
Production.
Because Kenny was doing like Blood Vibes.
Ah, man, he was on fire.
He had like a house joint, and then he would do a hip hop joint just for us, because that's who
Right.
Kenny is. He's both.
He used to put out drum break records, like
Yeah, yeah.
program
Jesus Christ.
beats and just put out volumes of break records.
Shout out to Debo.
I remember.
Word.
Yeah.
So it's just full circle moments. You know what I'm saying? So during college, I was playing a lot of house music, and Masters at Work.
Interesting.
They're my favorite. They're like, to me, they're the best house production team ever, right? And it was really great meeting. Kenny's like one of my closest friends in life, period. And one of the jewels he laid on me when I wanted to start getting into making more like house productions, he was like, pursue your hip hop drums, pursue your house drums the way you would start hip hop. Raw, hard. He's using drum breaks when he's, making his house records. That's one of the reasons why those Masters at Work records, they're untouchable. He's the best house drum programmer ever. Like, he's sick.
Wow. So all that Masters at Work shit is actually like drum, like breakbeat samples. All
Yeah.
the bass and kicks he's just taking and layering that shit.
With a few exceptions of maybe using a
The SP or
909 or 808 or whatever, but for the most part, it's all breaks.
Wait, so I have a question. When did you get Todd Terry's SP1200?
Bounce.
Todd Terry gave you an SP1200?
Todd Terry ran Freeze Records. And for those who don't know, Freeze Records, formerly Fresh and Sleeping Bag, same company. So,
And they went on to put out Reasonable Doubt as well.
yes, exactly. Yep. So that's the connection. And as a check, he gave me his SP1200. And that SP1200, it was just so surreal to me because I'm playing all of these guys' records when they were hot and brand new, and then I meet them and I get an SP from
the guys that actually did it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Crazy.
And there was a story, me and Kenny went digging in Portland one year, this was like 98, to buy records, strictly to buy records. Well, on a digging trip. So I told him the story of the Todd machine. And when I got the machine, there was a sticker tape running across the machine that said, Todd Terry still rocks. I took it off. I wish I kept it because it would have been like some ill like,
You were like, this shit is mine now.
Yeah, it's mine. Fuck that. It's mine. But I told Kenny about it, and he was like, yo, you know who made that sticker? I made that sticker. Wow.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wow.
You have some legendary equipment in your arsenal.
Historian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got J Dilla's MPC 3000 too, right?
No, a disc.
A disc?
Yeah.
I thought you had the whole MPC
No, not the
3000.
machine. No, I got a disc.
Wow.
Yeah.
With all its sounds.
Well, not all the sounds.
Yeah,
It was just like, just a couple of beats on there. Sheesh.
How was your relationship with J Dilla? Because he asked you to work on a project with him, right?
So around, what was that? Maybe 2000, I get a call and he's like, yo, I'm working on an album. I don't want to do all the beats. Send me some shit. And I never sent him anything.
Why?
Because I was like, what the hell? What in the entire F does he need beats from me for? You know what I'm saying? I looked up to him in life. He was that guy. He was that guy. We were friends. So, and we had conversations. I wish we got to speak more because he definitely was kind of like an alien in that way. He would surface and then disappear. You couldn't get him, especially in his later days when he got sick. But he came to New York one time, wanted to go digging with me, wasn't available. There's an infamous photo that people may have seen with Jazzy Jeff and Kenny Dope and Dilla in a van.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be on that road trip in Pittsburgh. Couldn't go. But we had our moments where we shared our knowledge of samples and breaks, and we would kind of mess with each other trying to figure out what records we used for what. There's a joint on, was it Welcome to Detroit? The first BBE record. Where he was like, yo, guess what I used for this? And he gave me a hint. And the hint threw me off because I think his hint was wrong. So it's like that. I mean, I don't know if I want to blow up the spot. But anyway, because I don't know if the sample was cleared or not. So he told me, when he gave me a hint, I tried to figure it out. And then I told him what I thought the answer was, and he was like, nah, it's this. So I went back and I listened to the record, and I was like, yo, he absolutely crushed the sample, but it didn't correlate with the hint he gave me. So I think his hint was wrong.
Right.
I don't know if it was to throw me off, you know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't figure it out because he had a thing about people figuring out what he used. He didn't really feel that. But I have two great moments from his legacy is him telling me one of the records I released or did production on was this joint called Sunshine that had Talib Kweli and Matt Fingers on it. So he always was like, yo, that's my favorite beat you did. Fast forward, after Death, I'm listening to all his beat tapes, and he made a beat with the same record.
Wow.
So I kind of took that as a tribute, right? So that's one moment. And then the second moment was when he gave me the shout out on the Welcome to Detroit album. And the shout outs, I was like, I'm on his good shit list. Because if he felt the way about you, he wasn't rocking with you. You know what I'm saying? There was a mutual respect.
Do you kind of regret not working with him? Or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially after I heard the Pay J record, I was like, damn, I missed the golden opportunity. But
so you've never been in the studio or just sat and worked with him?
never.
Wow.
But aren't you guys on the same record though, right?
A few times, I remixed Stakes Is High. That was
Right,
a Dilla production early, and I had another chance to remix something that he produced. She Said for Farside, but that went to somebody else. I thought my remix was fly, but we came up at the same time.
Speaking of which, it's like this guy is very humble, so he's not going to mention all the people that talk about high school. Who are these people that you went to high school with?
Okay. So I went to Julia Richmond Talent Unlimited, and Taj from SWV went to school with me.
Wow.
That's my sister right there.
And yeah,
Shout out Eddie, what up?
Most Def.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
So I was Most Dante, Yassine Bey, respectfully, his first tour DJ.
Really?
That's crazy.
Black on both sides.
That's crazy.
We went to London together. We did Radio City together. We did New Orleans together.
What period was this? Universal Magnetic MCs period?
This was after that, because that was his first release on Raucous.
Right.
So this is shortly, a few years after. I mean, we're promoting the album. We're doing the album run.
So that's like 98, 99.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's like, so like this. We're going through like the production stages and the DJing, and this whole time while you're doing all this underground hip hop, you're working with all these legendary producers and rappers. You're also doing clubs.
Yes. Yes. Let's get to it.
because
it is kind of wild when I think about it.
To me, the fascinating thing about the 90s and the early 2000s era is just like there's like no documentation of anything.
Right.
It's not like now where you can see flyers and all this shit. So like all this whole era of like even the 80s, everyone talks about the 80s and the 70s a lot. But the 90s, like there's nothing about it.
Yeah.
And so like if I looked online, I wouldn't find that much about you DJing clubs and party rocking in the 90s.
Now here's the thing, as a DJ, we're like, Spinna just did the joint. He did what do they call it? Acid jazz joint with Roy Ayers or something. it's always something like some other. Oh yeah, he just did something with Brand New Heavies. He did something with Nadia Davenport.
Oh, wow.
It was just like highlight. And we're looking at it like he does underground joints, but he does the other shit too. The fly shit, the celeb shit.
Right. Well,
yes, crazy.
Brand New
Crazy.
Heavies, wow.
Alien. He's an alien, bro.
I think that to me, it's really about following the path of good music. So I could have been a top 40 club. I was going that way.
This is one of my main questions.
Yeah, I was going that way. I was like 90s.
Yeah.
Cause you gotta remember, like I was in school playing all the black fraternity and sorority parties every week for 4 years. Right. After parties, basement parties in Binghamton, and New York. This is still New York. It's upstate, but there's a lot of New York folks up there, and Caribbean too. Because
I was curious to hear if you were at like the Tunnel or Mecca. Or
I didn't. I played. There was a spot called Esso's that I played one night. back in the days. You know,
You did Tramps.
I
and
did
stuff like
Tramps.
that.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah.
Did.
I mean, come on, don't be modest now, bro. Don't be modest. Let's let it go. Let's let it go, brother.
Goldie was watching.
I definitely was.
Yeah, I did a lot of opening sets for groups as well. I did a lot of work with Giant Step back in the days. That's how I'm able to do something like a brand new heavy show, or, you know, at the time, Amel LaRue was hot, you know, as a solo artist.
But not every DJ could do a brand new heavies show.
Right. You know? So what I'm getting at is I could have been the mainstream, shut the party down cat. I got that part of me, you know. If you put me in a club, back then, I consider myself unstoppable. But
see, as a DJ now, this goes back to where the legend comes in, where you hear about it and you be like, yo, this nigga's nice. Spinna has this thing where with DJs, or at least the ilk of DJs, Spinna cares. So he plays care music. And that's dangerous because you can't really underestimate a guy that cares about the music because they also get stupid busy. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, he could do that if he wants to with his eyes closed. But he's playing the other shit that you really got to do the research. You got to care about it.
Right.
And that's what makes him Spinna.
There's like a thoughtfulness, right?
Exactly.
Attached to it.
Exactly.
I don't think I have to say anything else. He got it. He got me, man. He understands. And that's the trajectory that I've reared my entire career in, from production to the kind of parties and events that I play and the parties I curate.
It's evident though. It's just I've just kind of, the reason why I ask it is because I've wondered if you've ever had points in your career, and I know this might be too early to ask this question, but has there ever been points in your career where you were like struggling and you're like, am I on the right path? Or did it always seem, because it seems on paper that it was like you've always been on the right path and it's always been like, you know, the right decision to do step by step by step.
Well, here's the thing. I don't let money rule me. Never have. Of course, it would be great to be super ill-paid, rich, you know, but I have a moral compass, and I care too much about the music. And I guess what I was trying to get at is there was a point where I was going full throttle, hardcore club banging mainstream, and at some point I was like, I can't do this anymore. I got frustrated because it became about playing the hot shit that people heard all the time on the radio. You know, by 98, 99, this started happening. And I felt like I was being trapped creatively, you know what I mean? And then couple that with the fact that I started traveling. Like Jig Masters, we went to Japan in 97. That was probably my first trip overseas, and we ended up in Japan doing shows in the country. And then London that same year. There's a whole other world out there, a whole other world of music and a whole other world of music appreciation that doesn't necessarily parallel with what's happening here in the States.
So was there like a certain incident or a couple number of incidents that happened that made you frustrated in particular?
Well, just, you know, I had a residency at a spot called Spy Bar at one point, and it was just the constant requests to hear the joints that, like, I felt like I couldn't stretch out anymore. And, you know, some DJs, I still care about the crowd too. I care about the music, but I also care about the crowd. So at some point, it's a give and take. It's like, do I want to keep satisfying the crowd but playing records I don't really care about? Or, because obviously, you know, you can also mix it up where you give them what they want and then you give them what
they need.
You like.
Right.
But after a while, you want to keep the energy on the floor. So if it doesn't work, I feel like now it's a better time to do those kinds of sets because we're in a different era and world now. But back then, as the wheel was being invented in the commercial aspect of popular music in the clubs and all that, I felt confined. Like I just couldn't.
Now, is this because you were doing production and then you wanted to get your type of sound and you were more gravitating towards that?
Well, yeah, in a way, because I'm working with all these, which is one of the reasons why I kind of stopped making a lot of hip hop records. I still love making beats, and I still love working with rappers, but the support in the clubs left. You know, I never wanted to make records that people wouldn't hear out
Right.
and rock to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I came up at a time where I was thirsty to get into the craft because I wanted to make records for people to hear and rock to and dance to if I could. Beyond Real, when we dropped that, it was kind of hot for a minute.
Just sidebar. Did you do the Capleton remix? Was that
So there's two of them. The Lil Jon one is the popular one,
Right,
and Voodoo Rhythms, my partner,
Right.
did the other version. So yeah, I actually had a stint. So next door to Freeze Records was a label called Signet.
That's also on Freeze little affiliate.
Freeze affiliated label. Actually, the two brothers ran both labels.
They put out the Shaggy record, the Big Up, and
Big
all that
Up,
other stuff.
yeah,
It's like
right,
a orange
right,
label.
yeah.
And some of my first projects with my old partner, from Voodoo Rhythms Experiment, Voodoo Rhythms Productions, we did damn near an entire hip hop reggae album.
It's crazy.
I did a joint with Beanie, which I haven't heard since then. I don't know if you got it. If you got it, you got to pull it out. There's a record on Beanie Man that I co-produced. I don't even remember it.
Now see, he doesn't even remember
Kenny
stuff
Dope-
like this,
Kenny-
right?
Kenny Dope-
But this is why we're looking at him like this guy is a fucking star. Like his records getting played every single day on the radio. We like this guy's a fucking star. So the fact that Spinna kind of doesn't even really acknowledge that part is ill because he started doing exactly what he wanted to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like a lot of just curating his own parties and stuff of that nature just became more his thing.
Right.
Just became his thing.
But that's why you started your own parties, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So in 2000, was it 2001?
Yes.
You started.
Well, okay, let me dial that back too.
Yeah.
So my wife, who at the time wasn't my wife, we were just working together, and then we became a thing, a unit. Shout out Keystar.
Shout out.
We started doing parties together. So she already had like a roster of names from people that she came up with, you know, in the hood or whatever, and through dance, etc., clubs. So we started doing parties together, local parties in Brooklyn.
Now, were you already doing these parties, or were you having conversations with, you know, your wife at the time, and you were like kind of talking about your frustrations with the club scene?
No,
you know?
I think she had already witnessed me. I mean, first of all, so one of the first parties I ever played in my life was on my block, and she's from the neighborhood. Okay. So she came to the party back in that was like 86.
Wow.
Thrown by my homies on the block.
So she always believed.
So she already knew. You know what I'm saying? And then throughout the 90s, she see me here and there. So she wanted to start doing small events, and we worked together. We had a crazy party in a brownstone in Fort Greene one year. That was like 97. And then from there, we never stopped. And we just kept growing. So the theme parties started around 2001, 2000. 2000.
Let me just interject right quick.
Yeah.
This is the creator of the Michael Jackson parties. This is the creator of the Michael Jackson versus Prince parties. This is the creator of the Stevie Wonder parties. All imitations, stop, please. Stop, please.
You know, at this point,
He is the founder of the theme parties, pretty much.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I will take that 100%.
You're gonna if I post this, you're gonna get challenged by somebody.
Yeah, of course.
in Wisconsin or something.
Stop.
But look, I'll just say this, you know. Damn. You know,
I gotta say it, man.
I see it. I see what's going on, but at this point, I don't really beef about it anymore because
You don't have to.
There's always an inventor or someone that creates a movement that creates other movements or influences other events.
Right.
So that's the way I look at it at this point. You know, it's a thing now. But at the time when we were doing it, we didn't see anything like that. Not in New York anyway.
Right.
When you're always creating or innovating, you have to get used to people copying and stealing.
Absolutely.
It's just the natural order of how
happens.
innovation works.
It happens to the greatest.
Right. So, but after a while, you just when it first happened, you take it very personal.
Oh yeah, I was pissed.
Yeah.
Especially when it's with people that I consider, you know,
Peers or colleagues,
Right.
Yeah,
whatever.
You know, I've had to make calls a few times.
Right.
Like, yo, what's the deal? Like,
And then they
what
always come, yo, man, but it's dope. I'm just doing. I love what you do. I just want to
Right.
do it too.
Yeah.
But then after a while, you start realizing, oh, this is just the natural course of how this works.
Now I feel that way.
Now, after all these years?
Now, because trust me, you're still trying to build a brand.
Right.
This party travels around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere. I've done these parties in other countries. Netherlands, Japan, England, Paris. And I'm it's still going with the blessing of Stevie, of course.
Right.
And listen, man, how can I sum this up? I've played the Jackson Family Estate in Havenhurst two years in a row. They do an event called Thriller Night. Shout out to Prince Michael's son. I've been invited to play Thriller Night 2 years in a row. A costume party in the house where the Jackson family grew up. Stevie Wonder. End up
freestyles at the party.
I end up in his studio. I end up in his house having intimate conversation outside of music, just about.
He's just playing you album cuts.
No, not even. No, forget about all of that.
Yeah,
just as humans. That's the payoff for me. So anybody else doing whatever, and I played Paisley Park as well with Rashida. Shout out DJ Rashida.
Right.
Played Paisley Park.
It's crazy.
For Prince, the Prince week.
So I want to talk about these two parties, these two legendary parties, that trailblazed everything. What we're seeing with theme parties and everything. The Wonderful came first. And then that, like, how long was it before Wonderful, like, took off and then you were like, I need to do Soul Slam.
The next year.
And then it was Michael Jackson versus Prince.
Yes. So, and just for the record, I met Prince. He knew he had been to a Stevie party in LA. I didn't get to see him. He was in the venue, and he was in a room looking out that you couldn't see in.
So he was at a Wonderful party
in LA.
But it didn't get to you that he was there?
No, I knew he was there.
Okay, in real time, someone told you.
This is when I was still doing it with Barbito. Barbito was my DJ partner for Wonderful up until like 2008.
So did the mixtape or the kind of the tribute album that you and Barbito put together for Stevie Wonder?
Mixtapes. Yeah, that's 2000.
Okay, so that came first.
That came.
He was doing the shit in the clubs. He was doing it at APT, at Lotus, whatever.
Right.
He was doing the parties, and those parties were like him and Barbito going back and forth for Stevie Wonder shit.
Right.
So it like kind of birthed out of that.
Yeah, but the CD did come first though. It was so. Let me dial it back again. So in 1999, there's a venue called Baby Jupiter, and a bunch of us gathered to celebrate Songs in the Key of Life. It was me, Bob, Cool Marv, another DJ. I'm forgetting what her name is now, but she went by E Love back then. Small. The spot was probably
Asian? Asian?
Yes.
Erica.
There you go. But what's her DJ name?
Tokyo Rose.
Tokyo Rose, yeah. We all admired Stevie, so we all just got together, and it was a real intimate vibe. Probably no more than 100 people. So then my wife and I, at the time, was like, we were already throwing parties. We were like, let's turn this into something.
Wow.
And I brought...
Because it was probably magical, right?
It was unbelievable. And, got to remember, like, around this time, Stevie had his last studio album, I think, at that time, was like 1995. We hadn't heard much. We hadn't seen many concerts. So it was a perfect time to celebrate him at a time where, I don't want to say he was dormant. I'm sure he was doing a lot of things, but in the grand scheme of his world, we didn't see much.
Right.
Like Jungle Fever was like pretty much...
Was that the last one?
No. There's another conversation piece.
Yeah.
Conversation piece was after.
And then he would make like little appearances on this person, that person.
Right.
Mostly kind of doing harmonica or something like that, but not a real song.
And maybe writing a few things here and there. But we just wanted to celebrate a legend, and it just evolved.
So then you did this one-off party. And then you're like, we got to do more parties. And then a mixtape emerged, right? Or a tribute kind of LP with Barbito emerged.
Yep.
And then you were like, let's make this official. Let's make this let's launch.
But it all happened fast. It all happened within the span of a year or two. And then we ended up doing a couple of compilations too.
Yeah, I got those.
Yep,
Or
called
different versions of songs that Stevie had done.
right, or stuff that he wrote, or
Stuff that he
produced
wrote, or
for
he
other
was in
people.
line with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Prince was at one of the parties,
Right,
and because he heard about it, and was it word through Rashida?
through Rashida. Yes.
Wow.
And
I heard he was a little spicy with you when you met.
okay, yeah.
Because-
so
Because the Soul Slam party was Michael Jackson versus Prince.
right.
But it wasn't like it was a battle.
No, and that's what I told him.
Yeah.
That's what I told him.
But he was spicy.
So here's what happened. It's like 2011. I'm invited to play a party in LA called Deep. It was an anniversary party with Marcus Wyatt, who is, the head honcho of that event. Rashida invites. I'm playing. Rich Medina's upstairs with me in the smaller room. Me, Rich, and Garth Trinidad, who's like a tastemaker, former radio DJ and on the LA scene. Shout out to him. Great DJ. Rashida brings Prince, meet him for the first time, and he didn't really greet me on some like hello, or the first thing that comes out of his mouth is, why does it have to be verses? So I look at him and I'm just like, it's not really a battle. We just want to celebrate you. He's like, oh, okay. Walks away, right? At this point in time, Garth Trinidad is playing. This is before I have to get on. So I guess he's a fan of Garth. Comes back to me moments later. He's like,
wait, before he comes back,
Yeah.
how did you feel? You're like, oh my God. he hates
no,
it. He
I wasn't
hates me?
tripping.
You wasn't tripping?
Nah, wasn't tripping at all.
But you kind of know, like,
I'm
he's
just
trying to
being
fuck
real.
with me. He's just
Right.
trying to fuck with you a little bit. Like,
Well, I didn't know what his.
What his slant was. He just wanted to-
I didn't really know. I think he was trying to tell me something, and I get
Right,
that.
right.
But I also responded. I'm like, it's not a versus. It's not a battle. People
Right,
always throw that in there. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what people like. They like
Right.
that kind of stuff. So he comes back, and he's like, what are you doing later on? So this is February. This party's happening. So he's like, what are you doing later on? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, maybe like June or something. I'm like, what do you want to do? I want to have a party. I want it to be Garth Trinidad versus DJ Spinna. And I looked him dead in his face and I said, I will roast Garth Trinidad. And he looks at me and he's like, and he walks away. And I'm at that point, I'm like, I don't really know how he took that.
Right.
But later on in my set, I threw on this joint called KG by the Nightlighters, right? It's a classic funk record. And he comes in the booth. He was walking with a cane, a crystal glass cane at the time. And he's like, he points it at me. He's like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. While I'm playing the record.
Right.
And then he starts playing air guitar next to me in the booth.
Holy
I was like, okay, I think I won. I think I met his approval.
Wow.
So from that point moving forward, I no longer use verses in the promotion. I just say Michael Jackson and Prince because they're both amazing in their own right. There's so much. I see all of this madness on social media now with people trying to compare. And,
right.
well, Prince played instruments and Michael didn't play nothing.
He didn't dance and this
he didn't
one
dance
and
and this one danced better or whatever. But it's no comparison, man. This party started as a result of the success of one of the greatest artists of all time. No Stevie, probably no Prince, and Michael was definitely influenced by Prince. So basically I thought, I was just thinking like, who else could be celebrated that has a catalog to celebrate that speaks to generations and could rock a crowd? Which catalog could rock a crowd? There's a lot of artists, there's a lot of legendary artists that are still around. Maybe some of them are not, that have been in the music industry making records for like 40, 50 years or whatever, but they didn't reach the kind of acclaim across ages and generations the way those artists did.
Right.
Exactly.
So
You celebrate him.
you celebrate them. And they're not the, I didn't stop there. I've done Earth, Wind & Fire, You know, I've done a Diana Ross night. I'm just trying to preserve
Luther joint.
Yeah, exactly.
Just guys playing Luther.
Right. So yeah, this brings me to a whole other conversation. So I guess my main what my path has been defined for, you know, in this stage of my career in life is celebrating great music, celebrating great artists, especially black artists, so that the history doesn't go away. Presently, one of my endeavors is a slow jam night on vinyl in New York. Small, intimate listening bar called All Blues, bi-weekly, playing slow jams of all sorts. It's based around the Quiet Storm format, which originated in DC, right?
Right.
But slow jam and Quiet Storm music took a strong hold on like black radio, urban radio across the country. It became a format. What's the next best thing that, you know, pretty much everyone loves? Slow jams, R&B. It doesn't matter how hard you are. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're in. You know, people love. Bomb. He said it. And actually, love is probably the main trajectory of my entire career. It's one of the reasons why I stepped back from doing mainstream, because I didn't hear love in the music anymore. As far as like hip hop and popular hip hop and R&B, it became something else. Not to knock what was happening, you know, it played a part and it made a lot of people rich. But I've always been down that love path, man. And it's just the music that raised me. Going back to like walking into the garage, man, the best sound system you ever heard in your life, the best records ever made.
This sounds like the Clark conversation, right?
Yeah.
It changes you. It changes you. It absolutely changes you, man. And everyone who came after him following that path followed the same trajectory musically, trying to create this tapestry of a storm of incredible music, curated
with love,
right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
What's the name? Do you have a name for this slow jam party yet? Or?
Yeah. It's called Galactic Quiet Storm. So I just put, you know, if you follow my sound and my music, there's always some kind of intergalactic wordplay, you know, thematic sonic thing going. So that was just my way. And the reason why I called it that is because I did put my own stamp on it as far as like the kind of music that I'm playing. It's not just your typical Quiet Storm selection. I throw in like soft rock, yacht rock, or whatever you want to call it. You know, I might throw on. Well, I don't want to give you too much. You just gotta come.
Yeah, I've been
getting
hit up. They were like, "Yo, Spinna started a slow jam party," and he says like it's like coupley to a certain degree, or you gotta reserve your table. And
yes,
it's just like a zone.
So there's a Luther Vandross documentary coming out, I believe, by the end of the year, and we were able to premiere it.
Wow, that's crazy.
In the space, and I did a Luther night. So that's what he was talking about earlier. Did an all Luther.
Like your party's Soul Slam, wonderful, has been going on over 20 years. Has it changed, evolved in the 2 decades plus?
2 things have happened.
I mean, obviously it's gotten bigger.
Well,
and you know, and you have one of the top 10 most legendary historical moments in DJ history. I think it's in DJ history.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's up there with Stevie Wonder freestyles.
When Stevie Wonder was singing "I Wish" over the funky drum loop, and you were just going back and forth. That, to me, that is like, if there is a historic one, the top 100 moments in DJ history, I would say that's got to be in the top 10 of all time.
First off, he's there.
Yeah.
First off, he's there, and he's just fucking around
and harmonizing in the beginning, and then all of a sudden he just starts singing "I Wish," and then There were points where you were just kind of scratching and letting him do his thing and then dropping the
And you
drum.
can see the joy on his face.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I can't believe this shit is happening. I can't believe this shit is
And
happening.
then Stevie Wonder's like, all right, I'm gonna let the crowd sing at moments. He's taking a beat out. It was just one. I mean, I want to ask about that moment, obviously, but I feel like once that went out and everyone saw, it probably changed the trajectory of that party like immensely. You know,
Possibly, yes.
yes, it's got.
I think you had a moment where you actually called him, or he was on the phone at your party at some point.
There were a few moments like that.
Yeah.
So, well, first off with the funky drummer situation, I knew he was coming. The crowd didn't know.
That wasn't his first appearance.
No,
no,
not at all. No, his first.
because that was like 2014.
Yes. So the first time he ever showed up was after a concert at Madison Square Garden, and we did the party. I think we had already done Wonderful that year, but we planned sort of like an after party for the concert with hopes that because you got to understand, like, we never know if he's coming. We never know.
But what year was this now?
There's been times where we've been close. There's been times where actually my wife knew and other people knew, and she wanted to surprise me. That was at Manhattan Center. That was crazy. But 2005.
Wow. So like kind of
believe.
4 years into the party.
Yeah, he came through
When did you first hear that he knew about the party?
very early.
Very early.
Yeah, the second one actually.
Really?
Yeah.
So
So
what was the word like? Oh, yo, Stevie, he likes this.
So
shit.
the story with that is Edwin Birdsong, rest in peace, who was a collaborator with Stevie and Roy Ayers, great songwriter. He had solo albums as well. He made a record that was sampled by a Daft Punk.
Coca-Cola Baby.
Coca-Cola, yeah, Coca-Cola Baby. That was huge. But he came to the club after the Wonderful Party was a wrap. And I guess he was cool with Timmy, probably cool with Timmy as well in the club, and Freddie Sandin over there. So he came to the club and was like, Stevie wants to speak to you.
Wow.
So he called him, and I spoke to him on the phone. That was my first encounter with him ever. And he was just like, I heard about the party. Thank you, and hopefully one day I can come through. And he actually heard about the mix CD as well, which I was a little shook about because it was, unauthorized or whatever. But, so that was the first time, and then the second time I met him was after a show that was happening at the Apollo, 2004, and then 2005 he shows up. But one of the most legendary, outside of the Washington D.C. Funky Drummer one of the most legendary moments was I think that was like 2006 maybe. We had Club Shelter, Club Speed upstairs. We did it there that year, and his daughter comes, Aisha. She's seeing what's going on. She's like, I have to call my dad. I have to tell him about this. So she calls him, hands me the phone, and I'm like, hey, Stevie. The music is blaring in the background. He's like, hey, I'm going to call you back. I'm in the hospital, and I'll call you back. So he calls back after his kid is born.
Wow.
Right after. He calls back. I put the mic to the cell phone. He says hello. People hear the hello.
Oh, so you did this live at the
Yeah,
party?
In the party.
This is on the video. This video
is crazy.
This evidence of this.
Yes. Live in the party. And you could hear a pin drop. People went completely silent.
Wow.
So he speaks to the crowd, thanking them for being there. Stevie can be long-winded with love, right? But he mentions that he had just gotten off the phone with Nelson Mandela, who named his son
Wow.
his name, Manla.
Wow.
And then continues to, gratitude, thank you, the normal Stevie Wonder, love, give love, blah, blah, blah. And someone says, "I love you, Stevie," he hears it and says, "I love you too."
Wow.
People lose it.
Crazy moment.
It's insane.
It's just, so now I've had quite
But like, how does that make you feel when you start a party like that out of nowhere, knowing that all of this kind of started out of your frustration with the club scene? And I guess it's a risky thing to go out on your own. And I'm sure it's not lucrative. It's not instantly lucrative when you start doing it, And then you go, and I always tell DJs this, like, whenever they say, "Oh, I'm not doing well, I'm not da-da-da," I'm like, be a fan. Like, be a fan of something. Like, be a fan. What club do you want to go? What DJ do you love? Like, what party do you love? Like, don't just say you want to DJ that party. Go there every weekend or every month where that party is. Be a fan of something. Fall in love with something.
Right.
Obsess about it almost. Right? And it's kind of like when you do that, it's like it's undeniable. And it's like you'll do it whether you make money or you don't. And when you build something like what you built, and to have the artists themselves be a fan of you starting something that started with you becoming a fan, I think it's amazing.
The one thing that I can say about with this party is that as a DJ and just from the outside looking in, that it felt authentic from rip. So we always knew that this was his wheelbarrow. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was a certain, like I said before, a care that went along with it, with the presentation of it, just the curation of it. Everything just felt very authentic about it. So it didn't feel like, oh, he's just trying to get popular off of using these artists, and that's, oh, everybody likes Michael Jackson, so people gonna go. Nah, it felt like. And then when you start seeing the clips of what he was playing, or he's playing shit B-sides, and he's playing stuff that you're like, oh shit, he actually playing that in a club, and they know it. That's the shit, man. That's the shit.
I think that my main objective is to touch the people, man. I love music too much, and I care about the craft too much to not present it in a way where people are not touched. That's, to me, that's the most important, because people are actually coming to see you, and you have a job to do. You have an obligation to make these people feel good at the end of the day. And there's nothing better than doing it in a way where you're presenting music that can actually heal souls. And I get that a lot. I just came from San Francisco this past weekend, and I hadn't been there since 2019 with the Stevie party. And people came up to me crying, like thanking me for bringing it back, because
post-pandemic
it fulfills the music. It serves another purpose. It fulfills souls, and I think that's ultimately, that should be every DJ's goal going in. It should never be about you. It should always be about the music and the people. That should always come first. And that's what keeps me going. That's bigger than any bag you could get. It's all about how people receive the music, how it translates to people's hearts and souls, and
That's also why you're so special. And you're so important, because you are the right vessel for this, to showcase a party like Wonderful, which is a tribute to Stevie Wonder. Why? It's also why not every DJ can do it. Not every person can do it. Not every, doing it. The testament is 20 plus years of it. The testament is Stevie Wonder showing up. The testament is Stevie Wonder calling early on, letting you know that, he loved what you were doing and being a part of it.
Again, during the I just had a memory, like during the pandemic, September by Earth, Wind & Fire had an anniversary. I want to say it might have been 40 years. I did a stream. This is when we were stuck, couldn't go out anywhere, and we were all online trying to figure it out.
By the way, your Twitch streams were amazing.
Oh man, thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
We would be in DJ group chats like Spinna's on. We'd all hop.
I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, it took a lot to make those things happen.
Yeah.
But there was a whole. I don't remember how. It might have been like 4 or 5 hours of an Earth, Wind and Fire stream on YouTube on their channel with them. Part of it. So that to me, that was kind of like another extension of reaching the artist and them kind of
The back and forth.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that felt really good. But it doesn't stop with these artists. I'm just trying to do it for as many legacy artists as possible. Right now, I don't know when this is gonna air, but gonna be in Memphis next month, and there's a venue hotel called Central Station that I've been playing at, which is it's been really dope so far. But this time I'm going with Kenny Dope, and we're gonna celebrate the music of Stax and High Records back to back together.
That's ill. That's ill.
As a continuation of what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, why not? This is music that raised us, which brings me back to the slow jam night again. Like doing these parties, doing these events, these gatherings, I should say, because they're not really parties. They're more like intimate setting, living room type vibes. So on a crazy hi-fi analog system. I'm playing music that's bringing them back to their childhood. Music that was played that their parents or their mom was playing on a Sunday while cleaning the house or cooking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's dialing up all of these memories and life experiences. It's all intentional though, because it needs to happen.
Yeah.
And it's just like you were just in Japan, right?
Was just in Japan a couple weeks ago.
And you did wonderful out there.
I didn't do wonderful. It was a straight DJ tour. But I had 2 gigs with one of the baddest, if not the baddest, 45 vinyl 7-inch slinger.
It was Coco.
That's a bad dude, man.
It's a bad man right there, boy.
That's
a bad boy.
I would say like I feel like he's in everyone's top 5 DJs.
He's a bad.
I don't usually like watch these like DJ recap like routines. I don't usually watch them, and when I do see them, I'm like, oh no, whatever. That was cool. But every time I see Coco, I'm just like, what the fuck is he doing?
It's because he loves music.
You can tell too. You can tell the joy. You can tell the joy. You can tell the care.
He loves music. He's not just cutting random things. He's not just cutting. He actually is cutting random.
Yeah, that's
things.
the thing. Is he's so random.
It's random. You don't know what he's gonna do, how he's gonna play it. He has the skill set, but he's also reaching into all of these other, territories, musical territories.
Right.
You just don't know what he's gonna do and how he's gonna play it.
And you can tell he knows. He does the research. Like,
Yes.
he knows about the music. Like, he
Absolutely.
really
Yeah, he'll play like a Tribe Called Quest sample. Then he'll play the next song will be like a remake from some band, some jazz band that remade that sample.
Right.
Then he'll go into like a rework of the actual song, and then like where's he gonna go now?
Yeah.
And then he'll take a wordplay and then go into like something completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really unpredictable, and I couldn't even imagine doing it on Serato, and he's doing it on 45.
Well, he comes from, to my knowledge, he comes from the battle circuit. Like
okay.
Yeah.
He was on it like that.
Okay.
That's why he's so skilled with the technique on the 7-inches, because he has that background. But it was interesting playing with him because we did back to back, and then we did our individual sets.
How long were you out there? And what
That was
cities did
10
you go to?
days. I did Tokyo, Kumamoto, Sapporo, which is in Hokkaido up north, and Kyoto.
Beautiful.
What do you mean when you say back to back? Is it like 2 records, 2
Yes.
records?
Yeah.
Is it 2?
Yeah.
2, 3.
2, 3, yeah.
Wow.
But not the whole set. Like he will do his set, then we will go back to back, and then I'll do my set. Or he'll do his set, I'll do my set. We do back to back.
So it's impromptu. There's no.
Yeah.
You're just going with the
Just
flow.
going.
Dope.
Yeah.
So if you see him killing it, just keep going. Just keep going.
I gotta come in and kill it too. Gotta match the energy.
Do you get a little nervous?
Only not nervous, not really, because the music again is really what matters. But he made me feel like I had to continue to stay on that technical, because you know, I don't really do that much. It's not required of me when I'm rocking a party. Like,
Right.
you know, there was a time, especially during my indie rap days, where I had to stay sharp.
This is what I'm talking about.
I had to stay sharp because I was doing cuts on records.
Right.
You know, I was doing more in underground hip hop kind of events as well. So that skill set was necessary, required back then. But now it's like, nah, not really. You know what I'm saying? I think that's why people appreciate him so much too, because he found a good middle ground to showcase his skill and play great records.
Right. So it's interesting because I would see you as a legend and a great, and then I see Coco and I see him, you know, as a great and legendary. But it's like, even when you're DJing with him, you're like kind of being selfless and you're following his energy instead of implementing your own energy and having it clash.
Well, don't get me wrong. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I would do the cutting up for a minute, but then I'm just going to go play joints.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's still a party. I still have to do me. But I gotta.
But you're gonna transition first when you're leaving him, and then you're gonna allow yourself to do you.
Exactly.
And then he's gonna pick off from where you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's such a great dance.
Yeah, because he's not doing the cutting up all night either. He'll
Right.
do that hard body for maybe like 30, 45 minutes. And then the rest of his set, he's going to just bang you in the head with bangers. Like, he's going to go in on records.
Is there any other DJ that like you get intimidated by spinning like Kenny Dope coming up? No, nobody. Even
Can't be Spinna because they can't do him. Pause.
Nope. The only other person I would say, as far as like, I won't really say intimidation, because I get excited when I see ill skill set. Like, it doesn't really intimidate me because I know what power I have. I know what I bring to the table. I don't necessarily have to do that to smash the crowd. But I've done a lot of gigs with Scratch too, and
Wow, yeah.
he's a beast. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is
Alien.
He's ridiculous.
Alien.
So, you know, I might.
and I feel like Scratch is vicious. Like
He's an animal.
He could be your best friend, your brother. He still want to chop your head off.
He's an animal.
He doesn't like.
I think you want to chop his
He
own head
doesn't.
off.
I feel like.
I don't need this shit.
I feel like no matter who you are, you could be like his son or he's gonna chop your head off. You know, when you DJ with somebody, there's a grace. There's like, yo, get off.
No
Like,
mercy.
There's no mercy.
Yeah,
he's gonna want to chop your head off.
He's an OG. He's that guy. He's that Brooklyn guy. But I played quite a few parties with him, and I think we've done great things together because I think he sees the skill set in me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He knows I can't do what he does, but he knows I have something there. Same thing like Coco. Like, I don't think Coco would want to rock with me if I couldn't come at least a little close to the trickery that he displays. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, music is really
The focus.
the focus, man. That's really that's the focus over everything. You can really rock a crowd if you love the music that much. You can rock a crowd without doing all the extra shit. And some people don't really care for the extra stuff. In a party setting, it's not necessary. You know, to the music, man. If you find a way to put records together, you can annihilate a crowd.
So, like, at this point in your career as a DJ, how different do you approach it versus 20 years ago? Or is it basically the same?
I have more patience now.
Interesting.
A lot more patience, because when I started doing clubs, it was all about, you know, keeping the energy, quick mixing a lot. Even in the house world, when I first started playing house, I didn't have as much patience as I do now.
So your pacing is different.
It's different, and I've learned the power of
Staying in the moment.
you can build a lot of tension by letting music breathe.
Yeah.
You can build so much tension by letting a song play out to the end, because especially when you're playing like classic material, like from the 70s and 80s, you know, where there's live musicianship, live, you know, drummers and bridges and vamps, and, you know, musicality means more to me now than ever, because I understand what making these records, the purpose of making these records, and how it could translate. And a lot of that I actually learned from going to, I went to the Loft to hear David Mancuso, and I would say maybe the last generation. I'm like the last generation to get into that. And for those who don't know about Mancuso and the Loft, he's like the precursor to club culture in New York. You know, started off doing parties in his loft in 69, 70, private invite only. Larry Levan and Frankie Knuckles used to go to his parties.
Right.
Nicky Siano used to go to his parties. Like, he's like the predecessor, and a lot of the records that
kind of like the birth of that whole club life.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. Immaculate sound. But I started going to those parties when I started getting back into house music after the whole indie rap run, right? And just studying, because he doesn't mix. He lets records play from beginning to end, and the crowd, because of how he's curating the night and programming the records, the crowd goes crazy. Mm-hmm. But he's also playing records that meant something to people. And if you were a newcomer and you didn't know the records and you see the reaction from the crowd, it's an education for you, right? So a lot of what I do now, I let records play out longer, especially records that have moments where you need to hear it. One of Mancuso's philosophies, because I actually met him a few times and had conversations with him. He was a very deep, whose whole path was about love too. Love is the message was his mantra. Love saves the day is another one of his mantras. But one of the things he taught me was, like, musicians didn't go in the studio and record music for you to cut off.
That's a jewel. That's a jewel.
And that's any genre. No one goes in the studio. I don't care if it's a rap, hip hop record. I don't care if it's a dance record, R&B record, whatever it is. No one goes in the studio and spends money, books a session, hires musicians, songwriters, whatever, record songs, writes lyrics, recites the lyrics, whatever it may be, for you to play it out and cut it after a verse. Our attention spans have decreased due to many factors, social media being probably the main one, but when it comes to music, man, that's the one thing that unites us and helps to, like, salvage our entire being, especially like during the pandemic. You know, I have so many people that came up to me and told me I saved their lives because they were home alone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And the stuff that I was playing, like, I was doing these journey sessions on Sundays where I would play from like 3 in the afternoon to like 10, 11 at night, going off in my crib. There was no way I was getting locked up in my crib for an entire pandemic with all the thousands, because my vinyl collection is crazy. I don't even get to listen to most of the stuff that I buy. This was a golden opportunity to present a lot of this stuff. So when the world opened back up, a lot of people still to this day, in my travels overseas, they're like, you don't know what you did.
You were self-healing at the same time too, right?
Absolutely, I was. Yeah.
When did you become self-aware that you were like, man, I'm cutting these songs off, I need to let them play? Because I've noticed it as I've gotten older as well. Obviously, I don't have, you know, the career span that you and Goldfinger have, but I've noticed there's a nervousness when you cut off a song, and I see it with the younger DJs when they they'll drop a song, they don't get the instant crowd reaction they want, and they'll hop out of it, and I can. It's interesting. I don't even need to look at them. I could be at the bar talking, having a conversation, but I can feel the anxiety that the DJ has in cutting off a song short because in their head they think it's not working. And I kind of, in my head, I'm like, if you just let it play one more verse, you would have started to see people singing it. Right. And not only that, you kind of want to set a tone for, like, you don't know this, but I love this song, and you're going to listen to this song for a little bit. And I think there's something to say about letting a song play when it's not working or you're not getting the instant reaction that you want. I'm still working on it myself. You know,
I get it.
Yeah.
I think what's happened is, you know that phrase, trust the DJ?
Yeah.
That's kind of out the window these days.
Of course, yeah.
Nobody really trusts the DJ anymore.
Because they think they're the DJ now.
Well,
too.
not only that, but the way people, you know, especially newer generations, the way they were introduced to music is very selfish in a way. Like they're not experiencing it in a way where it's a community. Like we used to go to record stores back in the days, and it would be a bunch of DJs, you know, gathering, or a club where it was really about clubbing. No phones, no social media. Really about receiving the music and responding to the music.
It's a very individual journey now.
It's insular.
Yeah,
it's very insular. So people just want what they want when they go out. They want to hear what they know. They want what they want.
And they assume everybody wants to hear what they want because
correct.
They've been in their own world this whole time in that journey.
Correct. So DJs are not trusted. DJs are fearful. They're not secure because, you know, most DJs coming up now, they're just chasing the opticals, or, you know, they're in it for the wrong reason.
They want those Coco moments, those Spinna moments. Have you seen a change in the audience, in the crowd? Are you kind of like trying to like
reprogram?
Yeah, like re-educate them a little bit.
100%.
Right.
Well, he has the flack to be able to do that because he's Spinna. You know what I mean? So he has a little bit more leeway than most other DJs would have. So if he starts to do it, then they're going to react to it because he got that juice card.
It's a hard one, I would say, to attack if you're just getting in now, or, you know, you haven't been DJing for more than like 10 years. But I would say it's worth a challenge for every DJ out there to think about, because I think people need to be reprogrammed in so many ways for so many reasons. But, you know,
you kind of got to earn their ears, the respect of their ears. Like, you know, if you're spinning, like Goldie said, they're going to listen a little more intently than an unknown DJ doing it. You know?
I mean, there was a time, and I think it still exists today. I don't know about, you know, I don't want to keep throwing age in there or whatever, but women particularly don't like their favorite songs getting cut off. They hate it. And if you got the women rocking, the dudes will rock. So that's an incentive right there, if anything. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you want the floor to be hot.
Well, speaking of playing favorite songs, you got the duty, I guess to say, of playing Spike Lee's Block Party just about every other year.
When it happens, yes. So that came about when Michael Jackson transitioned in 2009. He wanted to have a celebration for Michael Jackson's birthday the same year. And he was searching for a DJ, and my name came up through several recommendations, Q-Tip being one of them. And I guess you can say the rest is history. I didn't even have to audition or anything.
Right.
I just did it. And that, to this day, that BK Loves MJ party in 2009 in Prospect Park is probably the biggest audience I ever played for in my life.
How many people?
It's 50,000 people.
It's crazy.
And then it's on TV. It's on every news channel in the world and shit.
Right. And then the second biggest one was just last year. No, was it last year? Last year in Fort Greene Park. That was like about 33,000 people. Michael and Prince with Spike Lee, Fort Greene.
Wow.
So,
do you have a hand in organizing and curating everything? Or?
Not really. I mean, we help promote to our crowds that have been rocking with us.
Right.
Me and Keystar. And, you know, I would say musically, yes. You know, sometimes I may help Spike find an artist or two to jump on stage. But for the most part, it's organic, man. Yeah. He operates in a real organic kind of way.
It's, 20 years, Soul Slam, 20 years, wonderful. How do you stay like in love and like reinvigorate your love for this catalog that you've probably inside and out, You've played almost every record for 20 years. How do you keep it going? And how do you approach it differently now?
New edits, personal edits, remixes, new findings, because till this day I'm still finding Stevie Wonder compositions for other artists and productions. It's crazy. That I don't even understand how he did it, but it's like endless.
And then people get introduced to the music, and
right.
So that's a whole nother different.
And most importantly, finding new ways to play the music, the same records. Finding new ways every single time. I have certain routines, right, with certain records that if you've been going, you kind of know. There's certain peaks. There's certain records that are always going to be peak records for both events. But it's always throughout the night. I'm on the fly coming up with crazy shit to do. You know what I'm saying? Like just thinking of new ways to bring records in, mix records together, whatever. You know, it's just I'm creative. I'm just creating while I'm going.
Stevie Wonder just showed up again to one of your last
Wonderful LA. He lives in LA, so you know, I get lucky sometimes. You
just don't know when he's gonna show up, right?
You never know.
Because you look shocked. I didn't when he was behind you.
Okay, so here's the deal, man. As long as I've been doing this party and for the rapport that we have and all the communications, he's still freaking Stevie Wonder.
Right.
Like, it's hard to not have an outer body experience. He has an aura, man. There's like an energy around him that you always feel when you're in his presence. It's illuminating. One time he came, when he showed up to the party, the wonderful party in 2008 at Manhattan Center, big venue. I didn't know he was coming. My wife knew. She wanted to surprise me. It's funny. I'll tell you a little story about that real quick. So before the party, she was like, "You got a keyboard? There's a group of people trying to celebrate their honeymoon or their anniversary or something like that, wedding something." I was like, "No, I ain't bringing no damn keyboard to the party. I just want to play. What you talking about? Keyboard? What you talking about?" But she knew he was coming, so I fumbled that. But I say that to say, when he walked through the doors and people took notice, you literally felt
the aura.
The room go like this.
Wow.
And then like this.
Wow.
And then it was crazy. Like he has a presence, man. He has a really strong presence. So, and then just thinking about his music and all of his humanitarian accomplishments and, you know, Martin Luther King holiday and his rally for that and just the amount of accomplishments. You're always going to be like, oh my God, this is Stevie Wonder. Always, man. And sidebar, I've had the opportunity, just for the record, I did 2 shows in his band with him.
I was gonna ask if you're his go-to call whenever, you know.
No, he does have another DJ locally in LA. Shout out Malski that he works with. But during these years, I was his guy. Yeah. You know, for a few live stints. And actually, one of my most treasured moments was opening for him at the United Nations. Wow. He does this Day of Peace event with a lot of ambassadors and dignitaries, and he will invite like huge artists to perform. I don't know if it's annual, but that year it was Sting, it was Janelle Monáe, it was Stephanie Mills, Valerie Simpson.
Wow.
I believe B.B. Winans was there. And some other, like, you know, younger, one young child artist that was blind, and a marching band. Like, it's just a huge celebration. But he invited me to open up the entire ceremony. And I thought it was broadcasted, but they didn't have the licenses for the music that I played. Right. So you didn't see me. You see me in the I actually DVR'd it. So I have the recording, but you see me in the credit roll at the end on stage clapping. But that was like a huge deal for me. It's big.
Insane. Is there any situation now that intimidates you? It feels like it's like
nah. Nope. Nope.
You meet Prince, you meet Stevie Wonder.
I know.
And not only that, but I played with my heroes, man. Like, you know, Timmy is a big brother to me. These are guys that I feel are my DJ mentors. All three of them. Even before I knew them, they were mentoring me. So Merlin, Timmy, and Tony Humphries. I did a gig with Tony Humphries in Italy, like maybe 3 years ago. You know, I played at at Club Shelter several times. One time I filled in for Timmy on my birthday at the Shelter.
Such a great place to be in your career now.
It's unbelievable.
Did you ever fathom that you'd be in a place
Hell
like
no.
this? Insane.
No. Didn't see it happen. Even on the hip hop side, like some of the artists that I can call my brothers. Like I was, rest in peace, Dave.
Wow, yeah.
I recorded a record in his basement. Shout out Truthy No Lie. Shout out to my brother Jock Max once again. In his studio, tracking a record that he did vocals on. Man, when 3 Feet High and Rising came out, I was a huge De La stan.
Dope.
All of us. Insane.
Q-Tip as well.
Is that your favorite album from De La?
Ah, man. That's a hard one. Man. I think De La Soul is Dead might be my favorite one. But
Mine
then,
too, yeah.
but then, you know, I also went back to
Balloon Mind State?
Balloon Mind State and was like, this album is highly underappreciated. Highly.
I think I Am I Be might be the most beautiful hip hop song I've ever heard. You know?
That and Reminisce.
Reminisce, yes.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
It's like neck and neck.
It's just a beautiful, like the construction, the thought, the concept, everyone that got involved to just say I Am I Be.
Yeah. In the beginning, yes.
It's almost like the Midnight Marauders cover, where you're like, wow, hip hop just came together for this album, for the Tribe Called Quest cover, and then hip hop came together for I Am I Be.
Right.
And
I think it's something with the horns. The swell.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and if I'm not mistaken, I think that's Fred Wesley blowing. Right?
It is.
Yeah, it's Fred Wesley blowing on that. He has some artists.
That song alone makes Balloon Mind State an insane album to me. Yeah. And then is Songs in the Key of Life your favorite Stevie Wonder?
So it's neck and neck between Innovisions and Songs in the Key. Songs in the Key is definitely the first album that I fell in love with as a kid, next to the Jackson 5 album, because it was an event. You know, 3 records, 7-inch single, a booklet, a lot of liner notes to read, you know, and just a journey throughout. But as I got older, I feel like Innovisions started speaking to me more. Even though it's a shorter record, it's a deeper, introspective album, and Too High is just ridiculous. The chords, progressions on that record is insane.
Yeah.
Out of all the parties, you have the Summer Slam, you have the Soul Slam, you have Wonderful, you have the Michael Jackson party, of course. If you had to choose between those 3, and you can only do one party, which one are you doing?
Damn, bro. Why are you doing this to me? Wow. I would have to go with Stevie, though. I would have to go with Stevie.
And it's not only because he shows up once in a while.
Nah, not at all. Not at all. I just think no Stevie. I think no Stevie, no Prince, and no Michael. That's the way I see it.
Wow.
Especially Michael in his later years.
True.
You know what I mean? I think that he's the precursor to modern R&B and especially electronics in modern R&B,
right?
Which is pop sensibilities,
which is one of the reasons why I love his music so much. Is because of his innovation. You know, like, dude, like playing all the instruments on an album, maybe minus horn or lead guitar, in 71, 72 is ridiculous. Bass, like keyboard bass. No live bass musician. Keyboard bass. Who was doing that back then? That's crazy to me.
Hey, Spinna, I know you have to bounce soon. Spinna, thank you so much. It's been such an honor.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
And I'm so thankful that Goldie could be here and be a part of this for real.
It's the OG homie right here, boy.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, DJ Spinna. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
If you want to watch more episodes from R.O.A.D Podcast, click either links on the left or the right. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page and get updated on new uploads throughout the week. Peace.